Hi everyone, welcome to our channel. I'm Kate.
And I'm Stephanie.
And together with you, we're Three Heads. Today we are talking back to school night.
Oh, so early, Kate?
So early. I think we've hit max earliness. But we're talking about back to school night, particularly at the middle and high school level, and probably even we're more high school than middle school. I think middle school, you're in this transitional between elementary school, where back to school night is very much sort of like a teacher focused activity, and high school, where teachers are like, it's not about me. Yeah. I don't even know if it's really about my class. I don't know what you want me to talk about.
It's really like intimidating to make your first back to school night presentation. Or even if you do a new class. Like we had like standard ones we used, but every time we would change a course, it was like, I don't know what we're supposed to say.
Yeah. It's also hard at the high school level. You have such a short amount of time. And you also have parents or families that are trekking all over the school. We know how hard it is for their children to get to class on time. It's even harder when you take parents who are unfamiliar with the school or
dragging a toddler behind them.
They're also distracted by this that's going on and that's going on, and somebody started late, and all that terrible chaos stuff that happens on back to school night. So what we want to talk about today is sort of a continuation of what we talked about on our podcast, where we decided a few years ago, pre-COVID, to completely blow up our back to school night and do something entirely different. Our principal had sort of put out as sort of a general statement, and we took it to apply to back to school night, that he wanted people to be willing and interested to change things up. And he was speaking in general throughout, everything you do as a teacher. And I had this idea about back to school night, and I was like, we're going to present this to him. He said he's looking for change. This is change. But what we wanted to do on our YouTube channel today was talk about how you can sort of reframe or shift your back to school night no matter how you're approaching it. You don't have to do what we talked about in the podcast, which if you didn't listen, you definitely should. But you can change in your very own presentation, and it's not actually going to take you a lot of time or effort, but it's definitely going to be something that not everybody is talking about in the 5 or 6 other periods
or
that the parents are going
how
to.
How many years they've been doing this.
Yes, for sure. So let's go ahead, jump in, get started.
So the first thing that is really helpful to talk about is any routines that a parent could ask their child about. So for example, we always read on Mondays. That would be our independent reading day. And so we would tell parents, instead of saying, oh, how was school? Fine. What'd you learn? Nothing. They could say, hey, Monday's reading day in English. What book did you read? How was it? And it's just a way to maybe generate more meaningful conversations between parents and students at an age where there aren't always meaningful conversations happening.
And you also don't want to put onus on parents of like, oh, you should be reading the novels that we're reading.
Right.
Some parents love to do that, and that's fantastic, but it's not for every parent, and you certainly don't want them to feel like they should be doing that in order to engage with their kids. So what we would do was we would share our sort of everyday routines. Some people call them bell ringers. We call them ongoing weekly assignments. Things that we have a sort of a set schedule of that we're always going to do. And a parent can ask questions about those without having to have sort of any content curricular knowledge. It's like Stephanie said, we read on Mondays. We work on a grammar program online. We practice typing, and we do challenges for flashcards on an online program. So asking, how did you do on your Kahoot this week is something that, it's really minimal effort on a parent's part, but it's going to help them to feel engaged, which, like Stephanie said, is what lots of high school parents want. And lots of times when a high school parent has chosen to show up to back to school night, that's sort of what it is that they're looking for.
Additionally, your school's going to tell you what to go over and you should follow that. But I think more important than going over kind of the rules that would be standard for any class, like stay in your seat, do your homework on time, is to really focus on things that are unique to your class. Do you have any kind of class rules that are maybe they're just your particular thing or your particular pet peeve or something like that? Maybe you just run your classroom a little bit differently than other people do. So we kind of we learned this in reverse and didn't get the chance to implement it, but we had a few parents who really struggled to understand we were using more of a flipped classroom model last year. And I think that in retrospect, we should have talked more about what that looks like and why we chose to do that, so that they wouldn't in March be like, well, why do you always do this and not do that? And so I think just things that are unique to you and your class are worth talking about.
Yeah. Another thing that we always like to talk about is our late work policy. Not that we want to assume that students are always going to have late work, but I feel like almost every teacher has their own policies and procedures about how they accept late work or they don't accept late work, what constitutes late work, what doesn't constitute late work. And so that's something that you definitely want to address, especially if it's something that is unique to you. For us, late work was only a 10% deduction. Most parents would assume it was not for credit at all, which is probably how it was when they were in school. Or, it's half off or something like that. So for us, it being only a 10% deduction, well, that should change whether or not their child is submitting back to school work, late work, because 10% is not the end of the world. What is your deadline for accepting late work? Some people it's a week, some people it's 2 weeks, some people it's when I return the assignment to students. For us, it was the end of the grading period. And we wanted parents to know that, especially because, and this leads into the next one, you want to make parents a partner. It's sort of a three-way partnership, much like three heads. It's between you and the parent and the student, and we all want to be on the same page about where do we find information for the class. I know sometimes at our school, we had a school website. I don't know any teacher who used that school website to convey important information.
Or even updated it more than once a year when they told us to do it.
I mean, maybe that was helpful in 2002 when there was nothing digital about learning. And so, you could post some stuff on there. But when you have Google Classroom or Canvas or Schoolology, nothing goes on that school website that is of any particular importance.
And that's not just our school. No. As a tutor, I've been trying to find stuff about my students' classes, and I'm like, nope, same as me, they need Canvas.
You're like, why would I put it there? That's for people who don't even go to the school. So you want to let parents know, where can they find this information? Where do you update grades? For us, for example, we used Canvas. Canvas shows grades. We did not use Canvas for grades because we didn't run all of our grades through Canvas. There were things that we didn't run through Canvas that students got grades for. So we ran all of our grades through Aries. And it's important that parents knew, to be fair, the only way they saw grades was if we accidentally forgot to uncheck that it was not for a grade. so that they know, oh, well, when I look at Canvas, it says that my child has 100%, but when I look at Aries, it says they have a 52. What's correct? So you want to make sure that you lay that out clearly for parents so they know where to go to find that information, as well as how often it's updated. If they can just access that information, lots of times, well, not lots of times, on multiple occasions, I had parents who would say, my child won't share their password with me, so I can't go on and check their grades. And I say, oh, you don't need them. Let them keep their password. Let them think they're keeping secrets. You have access to all this information on your own. You don't need them. Other times you do need a code from the student. So sharing that information with them, bringing them into the mix and establishing that partnership early on is really helpful for students who do well as students who are struggling.
And related to that is making sure parents know where to find like a weekly agenda. We always made sure to show parents on Canvas, well, in the few years that we switched to Canvas, but to see, like, if you go on this website, you can see exactly what their assignments are every day when they're due. There should be no surprises. You'll know what their homework is. When we used to teach AP Literature, we would give them an assignment calendars at the beginning of every 6 weeks that had all their due dates for the entire grading period. Well, that's a helpful tool for parents to see, that to know they could ask their student, can I please see your assignment calendar? I want to see what's coming up in the next few weeks.
Yeah, that kind of thing. It's easy on your side because you do this every day. But for parents, it's like, oh, wow, this is a real like window into what's going on in my child's day. Another thing that's super helpful is addressing any sort of biggies for the grade. Now, you don't know who your audience is. You may have somebody who you have their 10th child, the youngest one. They've been through high school 9 other times. They don't need to know
They
this
could probably
information.
teach some of this class.
And then other times you have somebody who, this is their first child who's in high school. They don't really know what they should be expecting each year. Maybe they're new to the school and your school has some big things that take place during each grade. And so you want to sort of hit on those things, especially if they're relevant to your content area. So for us, when we taught AP Literature, we would talk to our AP parents about college application deadlines because we were working on college application essays with students and we wanted parents to be aware of that. We wanted them to know about things like late nights and financial aid application support and all of that kind of thing so that they could feel like they had some knowledge and understanding and awareness of things.
Or just tip them off that they need to know about these things. Like we had a senior project that was run through English. It was a school-wide project run through English, of course, as you all know. And so we made that affected their grade second semester. And so we made sure to bring that to parents' attention as well.
Yeah, if you teach a class that has, sort of a trip, I know I have a friend who's a science teacher and they take field trips in the spring. Put that on the parents' radar. So again, something that is sort of like, oh, it's a no-brainer for you because you've been doing it and it's on your mind all the time is maybe something that's new information to parents.
Yeah. And our last thing is, but maybe the most important thing, how they can support their student at home. So part of that is what we've talked about already, so that they know what the homework to expect is, where to check grades and information, what to ask about just to generate conversation. So that's all part of it. But what are ways that, I would love to know if I had a child and that child was taking calculus, I'd be like, please tell me how I can help because I don't know, right?
Yeah.
And so what are ways that you can share with families? This is stuff you can do at home. If your student's struggling, here's something you can do to help them. And I think that is a really helpful tool for a lot of parents who just would like to help and don't know how.
Yeah. Even if it's something as simple as a YouTube channel
Yeah.
that you use frequently in class, or you don't use it in class because you don't need it, but when a child is at home struggling, if Junior is flipping out at 11 o'clock at night, this is something that you can take advantage of, or a resource that you can direct them to in order to sort of like bring down the tension.
There was a student I was tutoring in 7th grade math, and I found, because I needed it, a YouTube channel where it must have been during digital learning, a teacher literally went through and made a video of every single exercise in that textbook. And so, of course, I'm like, fantastic, we're bookmarking this. But the teacher, I found out later, I saw a link to that guy's videos on Schoology. And so, if there is something like that is just like, again, gonna save you from a meltdown in the middle of the night, tell parents.
For sure. So hopefully we have given you something to think about as you prepare for your back to school night, a way that you can make it more meaningful for those parents who are on their 15th, 20th, 25th back to school night. Who knows? In order to keep those parents engaged and feeling like they're getting something meaningful and worthwhile out of their time with you. Because if they walk away with that feeling, then they're going to assume that their child is walking away from your classroom every day with that feeling as well. As always, answers may vary. So if you have some different thoughts, if you have some strategies that you would like to share with us, please do so in the comments down below. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.